Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Ryan Turley here, and today I'm going to show you how to make the perfect prime rib for your holiday dinner. I'm going to be going with the reverse sear method. I've done this with my tri-tips, almost all my steaks now, and it's awesome. You get that perfect medium rare throughout the entire cut of meat, and then a really nice brown and crusty exterior. Okay, so there are 4 easy steps to this reverse sear prime rib. First, we are gonna dry brine our roast. You could do this anywhere from 1 hour all the way up to overnight. And for this dry brine, we're gonna be using Kosher Salt. And what that's gonna do is that salt is gonna penetrate the meat and help flavor the meat, but also tenderize it and bring out some beautiful color. Second, we are gonna season our roast. So I'm gonna be going with a garlic, rosemary, pepper blend. Mix that up with some olive oil to create a paste, and then coat this entire roast. Third step, we're gonna smoke this low and slow at 250 degrees. You can use your oven as well, but I'm gonna be using a Traeger Pellet Grill. And then once it reaches an internal temperature of 120 to 123 degrees, somewhere in there, we're gonna pull this prime rib off while we crank up the heat on our cast iron griddle and set this up for the reverse sear. The reverse sear is gonna create that brown and crunchy exterior that we're looking for, and it's gonna be beautiful. So stick around and I'm gonna show you exactly how to do it right now. So this is a 7-pound prime rib roast that I picked up. This is a prime grade, so you can see all this marbling here, and that's what we're paying for with the prime cut. You'll see here my butcher has already separated the meat from the bone, and you can leave it intact or you can separate it beforehand yourself or just ask your butcher to do that. And basically this is just gonna make it really easy for serving. So once we're ready to serve it, we can just separate the meat from the bone and then slice our portions. And a lot of people will trim this fat down or they'll French the bones, but I'm gonna leave all this fat on here because I do want some of this fat to render and create some nice drippings for our au jus later. All right, and I've got my kosher salt here for this dry brine, and like I said, we're gonna coat every piece of this meat and let that salt work in and create some really nice flavor all the way throughout. And be liberal with your salt. This is a big cut of meat and it can take all this salt. And since I've been handling this meat and the salt together, I'm just gonna discard this salt just to avoid any cross-contamination. We've got everything we need for our seasoning and rub here. So here's a couple tablespoons of olive oil just to hold everything together. I've got 2 teaspoons of fresh rosemary, dried rosemary, thyme, black pepper, and about 10 garlic cloves that we are gonna smash into this and make a really nice paste. These flavors are already smelling so good. Now we stir all that up. Again, we want a really nice thick paste consistency. I'm just gonna add another little dash of olive oil. So now we're up to about 2.5 tablespoons of olive oil. Let's get this rub on. I wasn't able to dry brine it as long as I'd hoped. Usually I want all of this salt to be dissolved into the meat. I would suggest dry brining yours for about 8 hours or overnight, but my schedule wouldn't allow, but it's still gonna turn out amazing. So I did not add more salt to my rub since we already did the dry brine step. There will be plenty of salt on this piece of meat. Gonna hit the meat sides first, and then we'll cover the top or the fat side. I'm not as worried about this bone side here, and I'll leave that for last just for any remaining rub and paste that I have left over. All right, so we've got our rub all applied. We're gonna let this just marinate for a little bit while I crank up the Traeger grill to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. And again, you can do this in the oven as well, but we're gonna smoke this low and slow and then hit it with the reverse sear at the end. Let's go. So the prime rib has been on the smoker for a couple hours. I think I'm ready to throw the temperature probe in just to see where we're at. You can plan for about 25 minutes per pound at 250 degrees Fahrenheit. So I have a 7-pound roast. So we're looking at I don't know, help me out. We're looking at about 3 to 3.5 hours on this one. So for this prime rib, we're gonna be using 2 sauces. I'm gonna make up a horseradish cream sauce now, and then once I pull the prime rib off the smoker, I'm gonna use the drippings that we gathered up to make an au jus. This is what we've got for the horseradish cream. So I've got 1 cup of sour cream. We're gonna add a 1/4 cup of horseradish. It smells super good. It's a little bit spicy and goes perfect with your prime rib. I've got 1 tablespoon of stone ground mustard. You could also use Dijon as well. A 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, about a teaspoon of white wine vinegar, and freshly cracked black pepper. Then we stir all of that, combine everything together. Wow. So good, and that took me all about, what, a minute? Do this, you've got to do this. We're gonna throw in this meter plus probe. This is a wireless probe that connects through Bluetooth. I got this for my dad for Father's Day, and he's in town right now, so we're taking advantage of that. And I'll leave a link in my description of this video if you're interested in this. This thing is awesome. Right to the center of the meat. Okay, so we just pulled the prime rib off of our larger Traeger. It's currently resting. The internal is at about 122 degrees internal. I'm gonna reverse sear this now on the Traeger Ranger. You could do this inside on a cast iron skillet. You could also crank the heat in your oven to 500 degrees. There's a lot of options here. We're gonna let that sear up for a couple minutes per side. I'm wearing cotton gloves under my nitriles, so I am able to handle this meat pretty easily. So while the prime rib is resting, I've got all of these drippings that came off of the prime rib while it was smoking, and that is just beef fat basically that's fully rendered. That's what we're gonna use for our roux. We're just gonna use a little bit of this and some flour just to thicken that up just a little bit. So I'm gonna throw in just about 2.5 tablespoons of this here. And then again, we're gonna throw in 2.5 tablespoons of flour. Now stir to combine. Just let that go for about 30 to 45 seconds until all that flour is incorporated and there's no more clumps. Now for our beef broth, I've got this Kettle and Fire bone broth that's been simmered for 20 hours. So we're just gonna add a little bit at a time there and whisk as you go. And this whole carton is 4 cups or 1 quart, and we're gonna add this entire carton. Now that all of our roux is combined, we can add the rest of our broth. So next we're gonna add about a teaspoon of kosher salt, and then just under a teaspoon of soy sauce for some umami flavor, and fresh ground black pepper. And then let that simmer for about 4 to 5 minutes and you're done. All right, we made it. So this was so easy, from the dry brine to the rub, to smoking it, and then the reverse sear. It really was just those 4 steps, and here we are. These 2 sauces, the au jus came out great, and then here's the horseradish cream as well. So let's take a look at this. This has been resting for about 20 to 30 minutes, and we are gonna slice into it now. So we're gonna remove the twine that it came packaged with, and remember the bone is already detached from the meat. gonna finish this off here and remove this bone. And then you can save this and make a beef stock or a beef broth with these bones and this fat here. It'd be amazing. Look at that. That is beautiful. Perfect medium rare, edge to edge. I'm just gonna get down on this horseradish cream here first. Oh, that is like butter. Wow. That is better than any steakhouse, hands down. We'll try this jus next.